You need to just take a minute, standing here on stage, understanding the gravity of where we are. We're speaking at Oxford University. I'm a college professor for over 20 years. This is a place that I've always wanted to speak, always wanted to be at. And to be on this stage at St. Hugh's College, a college that was founded at Oxford to be able to serve women that couldn't afford to go to school back in 1886, that has just a little bit more gravity to me. So I'm just honored to be here, and I'm honored to be in the presence of such amazing speakers. Another little story about me. When I was an undergrad, I attended Trinity College over in Dublin, and I had the opportunity to be in an amazing school and also be around. The first thing that I did when I was there is I wanted to be around people that I knew and people that I resonated with, which, full disclosure, I'm kind of a debate nerd. I debated in high school, I debated in college, and that actually is something that inspired me to my first career, which is a college educator, but I also had the opportunity to take debate students around the world. But when I debated at Trinity College, I discovered something different about debate. Not only was I around people that were very intelligent and liked to have conversations, and we stayed up very late in the evening talking about these things and talking about what was going on in the world, that we had the opportunity to engage in these debates with people that we disagreed with. But then when we walked out of the room, everybody got along as friends. And we discovered that having conversations and creating community around that exchange of ideas was something so amazing. Now, at Trinity College and at campuses like Oxford and Cambridge, they have debate societies as a way to advance ideas forward and a way to have these conversations. They have weekly debates, but they also use it as a way to network, to create their political connections, to create business connections, to really find inspiring ways to move their message forward and to integrate further in the community. I thought that was just something so amazing. So I would bring students over to be able to experience that. The debate wasn't just about going to competitions and winning single arguments or single debates. It was about a cultural exchange of an idea. And it was about engagement of discussions and having those really rich discussions to help move our ideas forward. And you shake hands at the end of the round, and then everybody goes to the pub and has a beer because we're all getting along, even though we are in different places. Now, when I open up social media or when I open up the newspaper to read in the morning, I don't really have a feeling like we have that in our world today. Does anybody else feel that we're in kind of a polarized society right now? That you're either for them or against them and there's nothing really in the middle? Who else out there feels like that? This is a challenge, and this is something that is so alienating. It makes people feel scared that they can't voice their own opinions if they don't agree with the status quo, whether they're Democrat or Republican or independent or environmentalist. People feel that if they're not in those groups, they can't voice their opinions. That is really dangerous. That creates silence. People do not want to be involved with the conversations anymore. We're scared of conflict. We're scared of being different. I'm here to tell you today that silence is not safety. It's stagnation. And as we are encouraged to be in one group or the other, we're discouraged from innovation and we're discouraged from having these newer ideas. I think it's important to think that we need to look at polarization and move it into progress. And today I'm going to talk about how we can do that. So here's a radical idea that we have. What if this tension that we all are feeling in society and we feel around us today, what if that is the key to innovation and key to the next great idea? We can turn polarization into progress when we understand who we are and what we offer that might be something different than the status quo says is appropriate. And also when we invite dissent and we invite other people to the table, is the only time that we have the opportunity for true engagement. So let's talk about some of these people that have pushed the status quo and that have these innovative ideas that are transforming the way that we communicate today and also transforming ideas that are impacting our daily lives. Just think of some of the entrepreneurs out there, these multi-billion-dollar entrepreneurs that have changed the way that we approach life. Think of the company Tesla. Tesla was founded as a challenge to the status quo because we are currently taking all of these non-renewable energy sources and this non-renewable fuels. We needed a solution to be able to move past that so we can create a future for my children, for your children and loved ones, because we're going to run out of fossil fuels. Now, Tesla is a multi-billion-dollar industry that's just going to continue to grow and just going to continue to influence. Now, it wasn't just Tesla that stepped out there and did that. They stepped out to create this electric car and this less reliant fossil fuel car. But that's influencing so many other industries and so many other people to be able to have some innovations that can help create these solutions and move us forward. Think of Facebook. Facebook is another innovation that showed up at the time that the internet was creating all these connections. Now, Facebook has its issues. Tesla also has its issues. There are some ways that we are having issues with the implementation, but think of the connections that we can create with Facebook and LinkedIn and all these social media platforms that we didn't have that ability before those types of forums exist. And you can love them or hate them, but they are useful tools for people to move forward. AI, which we're going to hear about later today, but also is something that is prevalent in our own lives. And as solo business owners and influencers and people that are trying to get their message out there, it creates consistency and it creates ease in us putting together systems that can create an easier way for us to move forward and an easier way for us to accomplish tasks that maybe we don't really like to do, but it's a way that we can enhance what we're doing and move forward so we can stay in our genius and stay in our real influential space. So just a couple of examples of how people that have pushed the envelope, questioned the status quo, created solutions that can move us forward, influences us every single day. Now, we are most small business owners. We're moving into a space where we are working with our own offer and our own ideas and how we step out and have a differentiation in our own business. I work with many clients that are in the space of speaking and consulting, but how do you stand out in that noise? How do you make your brand well known to other people? How do you stand behind that principle that's something that's so important to you, but also really important for that ideal client? That's differentiation. That's questioning the status quo. That's doing something different for you to be able to separate yourself and your offer from the next person. Now, I've been in professional speaking space for a while. When you go to apply for speaking, you look for leadership speaker opportunities. There are thousands of opportunities. There are thousands of opportunities, but there are as many, if not thousands more people that are applying for those opportunities. So you, as a solo business owner, how do you differentiate your offer and how do you differentiate what you speak about to be able to stand out in those applications? I'll give you an example of a client that I've been working with for a couple of years. Local optometrists, small town optometrists. They've been in their business for about 20 years. They've expanded their private practice. They have an unbelievable customer service, patient experience. They're well known within the community. They wanted to step into the consulting space. So I've been helping them put together their offer. And they really are excited about leadership in their business and excited about creating a good culture in their business. Well, there are about 1 million speakers out there that speak about leadership and culture in business, and also consultants that are really well known already in that space. So what did we do? We looked at their brand. We looked at their story. We created an offer that differentiated them as experts in that field of private practice, using their leadership and their culture ideas that they had formed over those 20 years. We created a unique offer for them, and we were able to introduce that unique and differentiated offer into the marketplace. And now they are seen as experts, and they are sought out consultants for private practices that want to create something different. That's what we have to do as speakers. Adapt the magic that we have and our own genius to be able to connect with the people out there. As solo entrepreneurs, it's important to be different, and it's important to create a niche so we can stand out in all that noise. We have to think of this questioning the status quo, this debate, and this idea as discovery of an opportunity and a way that we can really excel as entrepreneurs in this world. We discover ourselves and discover our unique offer and question the status quo when we're at that place and we're comfortable with what we're doing and we're comfortable in our genius. That allows us to get to the next step of engagement. So how do we actually engage? How do we actually set ourselves apart? The solution is inviting dissent and inviting opposition. That's a way that we can truly engage not only what we're doing, but where we can engage what we're doing with the community around us. When we build our ideas and we create them in a silo, that's where they're at, is in a silo. We don't really understand how it's going to engage in the marketplace or engage with media or engage with clients until we get it in the marketplace and we get some response and some feedback. By inviting dissent and asking those questions, that's where we have the opportunity to really refine our message and to really excel what we're doing and take it to the next level. So inviting dissent sounds like a really scary concept. I read a really interesting article the other day. A couple of statistics stood out to me. Over half of our workforce in the United States, over half of our workforce will avoid conversations with people if they think that the other person has differing political views than them. That's an alarming statistic to me. Well, it's alarming to me because I've always been around debates and I've always been around differing political opinions, whether it be my family or the community that I'm in. It's just a part of who I am. But if over half of our conversations are not happening at work, think of the innovation that is being lost. Think of people that are existing in silence because they don't want to have this confrontation. They don't want to they're living in a fear that if they say their own opinion, someone's going to be mad at them and they're not going to be able to engage in that discussion. That fear is clouding our businesses. It clouds us as entrepreneurs, and it really creates a silo of silence where we're not able to create those solutions together. Many people think debate is division, but really we have to look at it as an opportunity for discovery. I'll give you an example of a story when I was faculty chair at the college that I worked at for a lot of years. I led the faculty in discussions, hours and hours of discussions, and we created committees to be able to serve the curriculum and serve the policies and procedures manuals. And we spent hours and hours of time creating these solutions and making proposals to the board and making proposals to the administration. And then our proposals were just shut down, or they weren't considered, and they weren't a part of the conversation. And we felt so alienated, and we felt so lost because we put so much time into creating these solutions that we felt were the best for our institution. But then without even a conversation, we were just asked to go on to the next year and do it again next year. That felt so alienating. And it was such an emotional roller coaster for me to go through as the head of the faculty and to see that all this work that we had done wasn't even considered and we didn't even have an opportunity for that. Now, I can't imagine the small college that I'm at in Montana is the only place that this happens. Have we had this feeling before where we feel like we just don't have agency in our own environment? Even if we're the head of a company, CEO of a company, sometimes we feel alienated from the process that we have. Or have we been employees at a company and we felt like our decisions didn't matter, that we didn't really have a voice? Who here has felt like that? Have we felt like our voices have been silenced? That happens more often than we think. And as leaders in our companies, and as leaders in our industry, and as speakers who are creating new opportunities for other people, I'm asking you to invite this opposition, invite this dissent, because that's how we give voice to opinions that we may not hear because it's something that's on the outside of the environment that we're in. It's just interesting to think about how we can actually do that and how we can move forward might be something that we're avoiding. And we're not intentionally avoiding that. It's just something to move forward. So how do we solve this problem? How do we actually move forward and create an environment that's exciting, that employees want to be a part of, where we have a voice, where we're not experiencing burnout, where companies are not experiencing this turnover because people are actually excited to be at work? Let's talk about a couple of ways that we can encourage that as leaders in our companies, but we can even encourage that at home with our families. The first part about that is we have to be able to actually be there to invite the dissent to happen. But we can't invite the dissent to happen until we have set the stage for that. Now, I've worked with a couple of companies in the past to be able to create a space for more agency for their employees, to be able to contribute their opinions and to be able to give suggestions. We've got to create a space where we can engage those ideas, but we can't do that until there's actually an invitation for that feedback. So we've got to create a space for that. It's something as simple as creating a feedback loop in our organizations and asking our employees or asking the people that are working for us to give us some suggestions about something that can help them move forward. Even that small act of inviting them to the table to have the conversation can make such a dramatic difference in your culture and a dramatic difference in how you operate, that it gives your employees and it gives the people you're working with an opportunity to have a voice. But it might be something that you didn't discover was an option. Think about creating that innovation by just inviting that to happen. That can be just the one act that we do as a leader that can create that space. I think the second step is to actually invite that dissent. Who is opposing my idea? Who might have more experience in this space that can question what I'm doing? Being a devil's advocate is such an important part of business. I'll tell you a story of my business partner in the Strategic Advisor Board, and I'm a relatively newer entrepreneur. I came from academia into the entrepreneur space, and I met my business partner who has multiple businesses. I think he's CEO of 19 companies. And in the Strategic Advisor Board, he asked me to be his president when we launched this company 5 years ago. And I asked him, why did you ask me to be your president of your company? And he said, because you're the only one that questions me. You're the only one that challenges me, and you're the only one that has helped me see things in a different way. That's the best way that we can serve our clients. That's the best way that we can serve our team. And we need that challenge. We need that devil's advocate to be able to help us move forward. I'm pretty honored to be president of the Strategic Advisor Board and be surrounded by such amazing business talent, and me just asking questions and inviting that dissent was a way that I could do that. Think if we could do that in our own companies. Think if the United States government could do that right now. We're in a stagnation right now. We can't make decisions. People are not getting their paychecks because they're at a standstill. Nobody's listening to each other. We're speaking, but we're not hearing. We're not inviting opposition or inviting dissent. We have this fear of conflict. It's killing innovation. The only way that we can move forward in businesses and the only way that we can create the solutions is to invite this dissent, invite these opposing opinions to be able to have a devil's advocate and move forward. Debate doesn't divide us, it defines us, and it allows us the opportunity to engage with opposing views, to bring more agency and more voice to who we're working with, to create the solutions together. Debate equals collaboration. Who thought that that would actually exist? When I was at Trinity College and debating there, it was so important for me to be around other people and to understand those different opinions. I remember sitting in a debate round, and I'm sitting there with a team from Greece, a team from Oxford, a team from the United States, and a team from Spain. And we're having a debate about the refugee crisis in Syria. Do you know who had the most vivid view of what was happening in that debate? The team from Greece. My team from Montana could never have understood what that perspective was unless they were part of that conversation and we were invited to the table to have that conversation. And that's where the opportunity exists. Does not divide, it defines, and it allows us to find the solutions to move forward. Think about curiosity before criticism. Think about debate and inviting opposition to be able to create a better solution for not only our companies, but to create a better solution for us as solo entrepreneurs moving forward. Invite that debate so we can create solutions together. It's time for our culture to embrace debate and use communication as our competitive edge to create a future that engages employees, that engages people around us, and helps us stand out as we are trying to get our voice into the world. Thank you.